risk a copyright. Our first attempt at streaming across all platforms. Can you tell I've been dancing? Can you tell I was out looking at what people call rocks? But maybe we'll talk about that in a second. While we give everybody a second to join. So good evening. Today is what's today? Today is the 6th, 5-6, May 6, 2026. Planet Earth, how are you? Check in. Let me make my chat available to mine eyes, and we'll let Planet Earth check in. So we've got hantavirus, alien disclosure, and military actions abound. It looks like we're getting all of them. Yeah. So that's how Planet Earth is checking in today here in my local environs. It's beautiful. There's a storm coming through, so if we drop, yeah, is nothing I can do. I do have a generator, which should kick in, so I might be right back. Might not. Might decide to go out and dance in the rain, as I was doing a minute ago. This is not preparation, unless you count God and nature. I was out just as the rain was coming, and we're supposed to get 5 to 5.5 inches in this area overnight, and we've been in a drought. So this is going to be an interesting scenario, and it will be, let's just say on the positive side for exploration in the creeks. It's going to be wonderful upcoming week after we survive these actually ongoing, and continuously incoming until sometime tomorrow morning storms. But what I was doing out there in the rain, so welcome everybody. Let me welcome you first. Episode 12. Episode 12, that's correct. Finding things within and without. My name is Jason Huffman. I guess I could give you my whole name down there, couldn't I? I think my screen can do that, but it doesn't matter. You know who I am. Screen name, Shaman711, across all these platforms. What's up, Tammy? Good evening, sister, from another mister. And obviously, hola, mis amiga. Mi amiga? I don't know. There's probably a couple of us over here. So, what's going on, Sarah? Thanks for stopping by. You told me last time that everybody was relaxed. Now, my youngest has bronchitis, so excuse me if I caught a touch of anything in the lungs. I don't think I do. I've been out pretty much every day this week, so lungs are feeling okay, but the storm is bringing something with it. Hola, I think we're all constantly fighting off something of some variation these days. You know, we've got super immune systems at this point. Some of us do, anyway. But moving on, what I was doing out in the rain. What's up, ladies? Thank you very much for being here on episode 12, Finding Things Within and Without. We're going to look at a nice video that I went out and made yesterday. I went out to Flag Mountain, right? And Flag Mountain. Well, you know what? I'm gonna traditionally give it about 5 or 6 minutes of just kind of showing stuff and talking. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll tell you what we're doing. Funk of the week. Yeah, there you go, Sarah. How's my lighting? I've got a storm, so I kind of want guys to be able to see out the windows. So I've kept lighting down in here because, it's proper ambiance. I like, what's the word for this? I like this. It's not creepy. It's not eerie, but it's more eerie than creepy. It's like mystery, foggy, misty. Like the way I describe it to myself is it's like veil is thin, it's the way it feels. But it also allows you sort of a focus on your micro environment because it creates sort of a micro environment around you, with the weather. So I always find it magical, is another good word for it, actually, better than eerie. But I like that little twinge to it too, when you're out in the woods and you cut all lights off, right? Everything. even if I was carrying a torch, put it out in the creek, going, "What'd you do that for, man? Camp is way back there." I know. That's the training. Now look, can you see the light? Yeah, okay, way back there. All right. When you find yourself alone in the dark, and no matter how, whatever position you are with having done that however often in your life, if you're doing it right, there's a tinge of, what's around that tree? Back the fuck up, okay? All right, I'm tough. Whoever the fuck you are, back up. Just a twinge of that to it as well. Can you tell I put a lot of thought into my environment? I like setting a lot, as though it didn't show. Now on to what I was doing out in the rain and why I look all wet. I was just looking at some of the various rocks. Right, this is what you'd call them. Cammy, you'll recognize it was wet earlier, so you could see it's quartz. It's a very, very cool piece with this triangular. Not triangular. Well, it's anti. It's missing a triangle. So it's sort of like a Pac-Man. And then it's heavy. You see, it's still. I pulled it out of the deep in the water, so it's still covered in moss and stuff. But you can see on the back, and then it would have rested. I found it just kind of by accident. It rests like that, and it shows off one-handed. That sort of like that. Yeah, it's really beautiful. But what strikes me is, okay, so from the same place, somewhat on land, this island sort of rises out of the water, just a little sandbar, some big juts of rocks from the impact crater, but not even a foot, until you get to the rocks. But mostly this stuff's all gathered in like 8 inches to 4 feet of water, right? But you notice this theme. So you've got behind me here, right, a piece of a separate type stone, right, found all over from it's like a mica schist. It actually, honestly, in some ways reminds me of a piece of petrified wood, because when you look in here, you can see the different veining. But again, I'm not a professional on anything except spending a lot of time using it. And look on either edge of this thing, okay? It's worn flat. Now, natural, maybe, okay. So when here, it sits, that's why it's behind my desk, right? So now let's just pick another one, okay? Sort of same material, again, same pot, right? This one's shiny, right? Look at the bottom of this thing, just worn to a, they're all planed perfectly, right? And so they display quite well, right? Lastly, before we really get rolling here, okay, same spot, right? It's got sort of, seems to be petrified wood, seems to be from the looks of it, but it has also that shiny sort of flaky middle. But look at the way it's been like filleted, right? So you see bark, and then look at the back of this thing. It's like a plank, Isn't that wild? Heavy, right? Stone. Okay. Now, this stuff is from the Coosa River, right? Same exact spot where Corn Creek meets the Coosa River. Now, from big to small, see, this one is yet to be cleaned, just like the large quartz piece I brought in, right? He's nice, looks like a little tooth or something, but again, we bought him. Shinied, rubbed down, clean, right? And now I understand, and of course, all right, and I'll stop there because we're at our intro end zone. We're at 9 minutes. Welcome, everybody. So finding all of that, right, in the same spot where Corn Creek meets the Coosa, and there's a little island, right? That, to me, indicates something that for some reason to a lot of people, at least the more vocal ones, which I know probably not most of you watching, but many people in this world of social media, they like to just watch one thing and take no context. Like to say, oh, it's just rocks, just pareidolia. And I don't like to argue with people because that's pointless. But I do like to just showcase things while I'm wasting a minute and ask questions, which is what we're going to do about Flag Mountain here tonight. That's our topic here in episode 12, as we were asking questions about the amount of seemingly made for display type stones, seemingly, right? And what, if anything, can do that naturally. I think the easy answer, given the DeSoto Chronicles as a first-hand Western account of the numbers that populated this precise area, that, we're looking at native worked items, right, and sacred native areas. That is simply my humble opinion, right? But it's based on a myriad of things, a few of which you see behind me. Episode 12, Flag Mountain. I went to Flag Mountain yesterday. Flag Mountain is the southern, some call it, the southernmost point of the Appalachian Mountains, over 1,000 feet. Okay, in elevation. Our exact elevation is somewhere between 12 and 14, right? Which is weird, I know, but that's what my brain remembers. We'll look at it later, but we got a lot to squeeze into an hour after our 10-minute welcome. Thank you for joining, everybody that's here. Please feel free to chat. Please feel free to say hello, sort of join our little community that's building itself, and please feel free to ask me any questions while we're here in this time together and I'm waiting on this rain. Flag Mountain on a map. So the map I have pulled up, I have our national 3D viewer. So we'll start there. We have our LiDAR map. So let's switch over to share as we prep everybody for our location today. Sarah, what I was going to say earlier was I hope to maintain that vibe where this becomes just a nice watch along. So now let me come back and be a good producer. And yeah, that is in wrong ratio for showing you guys where we're going today. So we need layout to go a little more something like that. There we go. This is LiDAR, okay? So take it for what it is. Don't, I'm not going to sit here and look for anomalies with you guys. We'll get lost for well more than an hour. I promise you that. But what we are going to do is look at Flag Mountain. So we're going to take ourselves there with our search engine, scale out, and then we will wait for 3Dep to catch up with us. It's going to take a second. I have several windows open for us here. I didn't take any time to see if streaming was working everywhere. I hope it is. I'm testing several spots today. So welcome. However, please feel free to... Oh, no. So you hear me taking time? All right. So X is up and running. Welcome, anybody that's watching on X. Here we are at Flag Mountain, our destination today. I'm going to go ahead and close out the window there so you guys can see. So today's video is hopefully mostly travelogue, but all along the way I'm going to be pointing out something to you about the makeup of this mountain, right? At least what is visible as I take Jacob on sort of my first trip north to Flag Mountain. First time ever being there, and it's a very, very charming place. It is, however, in the middle of nowhere. Right, at least for, this part of the contiguous United States, there is no cell phone service there for many, many, many miles. I know this because as we're going to zoom out now, I kind of just want you to see the terrain, just get an idea for the bumpily peakiness of it. You might want to take note of Flag Mountain, how it falls off, very, very sharply on either side, right? And then you see the way that all of these, look at this flow over here, right? Okay, so these are things I'm going to point out in the video. And in the road, which you will see me traveling, is right here, right? Going up the mountain. So there you have your visual reference here on LiDAR. And I'll give you a look on the actual map as well. In order to finish driving home this point about the landscape, now that everybody's kind of getting a look at it, let's zoom out a little bit. And I promise you, you're not seeing any towns because there aren't any. This is protected forest, and we'll get to that here shortly in the video. If this doesn't want to, if it wants to take up too much of our time, we'll just switch over and use Google Earth so that we can get speedily to the video. I'm going to close. We probably don't need that window. Let's check. No, see, that Rumble doesn't look like you're working. Oh well. Okay, so excuse me, audience, for checking on those things while we were live, but our map loaded. So you're going to see this landscape. This is miles and miles and miles of what I just, you kind of zoomed in on. In Flag Mountain, you'll see caps. You see how it sort of kind of flattens out, right? And please don't start to look for patterns in this, I beg you, because you're going to get lost, because there's much one can read about this landscape, but that is neither the point or will allow us to get lost in this video. What I do want to showcase is that if you have seen episode 1 through 9 or 10, then you have seen me spend a little bit of time and talk a little bit about Hatchet Creek. You've seen me explore up Swamp Creek through here. You've seen me showcase the anomalous stones. You guys, and we might jump to video before we're done after we get through the scheduled programming. You've seen me climb these peaks here, all in here, up and down and over. In many videos over many years, showcasing to you that each of these consists of very large pieces of stone, right? And they're piles. That's what they are. They're piles of stone. And the video evidence, if you want to whatever, just automatically knee-jerk have a reaction to what I just said, go look for anything along Hatchet Creek on my X or my YouTube or my Rumble. And look at the several years of me climbing this stuff, and then I'm more than willing to have a conversation with you about it. Okay, so the reason I jumped to Flag Mountain yesterday is because of what I have found exploring right here, Swamp Creek, right? And Hatchet Creek. And when I tell you this was the northernmost extent of my journeys along the Coosa River, so tying in also for those that follow my many stories I have, that I'm putting forth here, the Chief Tuscaloosa, DeSoto, Mobilla, we've been following Coosa River here in Alabama northward. Well, we're even further north, right? So Hatchet Creek has always been that furthermost point that I've described to you as a certain intertidal zone, right? Between much further south, well, 20 miles, right? Where I am, where you start to see the earthworks, right? So much way down here, right? Way down here. But back to our little square before we lose it at Hatchet Creek. Right, and I go up here, and my last episode 9 of this, we ventured all the way up in here on Swamp Creek, here at the bottom left of your image, and go check it out if you want to fast forward to the end, if you want to see some very anomalous stones. Anyhow, to my mind, this was the furthest north, I had checked out this landscape. Well, Flag Mountain gets presented to me offhandedly by a family member here in the household. My mother just, said, hey, Flag Mountain, my friend would like to go there. Have you ever heard of that? No. But, let me immediately look at a map. And so when I look at a map, and let's remind ourselves, Flag Mountain is right here, right? I see that I'm going to go much further north in this landscape, this very pimply and oddly orchestrated looking landscape, which I have been climbing over and finding various anomalies documented over the years, right? Well, not only that, but I see that Flag Mountain is also sort of at it's like the northern border of this bit of it, right? You see where it empties right there. So that's how I ended up at Flag Mountain. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to bring us back to present. And we're going to say, there you go. So there's your visual mapping of where we're headed today. And now we're going to jump over to look at a half-hour video. And as usual, I'm going to do my best to let it play, to fast forward through anything that, you know, is probably more appropriate if you're just going to sit and watch it by yourself, not while I'm here to go ahead and narrate for you anyway. But it was a wonderful trip, and it was my first trip there. So I may have taken a different tone than I usually do. I'm trying to just sort of honestly showcase the place. So it will read a bit like that, sort of just me trying to show you the place and give you my first impressions. I will tell you this, at the end of the video, there is some strange stuff. There is some strange stuff. Let's start with this too, which doesn't fit any narrative I was able to find. Now, let's ask this question before we start the video. Hey, dude, what can you tell me about the formation of Flag Mountain in Alabama? Looking through all the files I've already seen when I looked for info, got it. So all the top search hits. All right, let's do this. Everybody, here is what we're told about Flag Mountain. Flag Mountain in Coosa County, Alabama, near Weguffga, is best known as the southernmost peak in the Appalachian Mountain Range, over 1,000 feet. I was close, about 1,152. No, I was asking Grok. Yeah. I don't use AI except for basic web searches, which is what I just did, right? Because I know what it does at that point. It's essentially just searching the whole web for me and pulling all its articles in and throwing it all at me. You know, I don't use it for anything other than that. Well, I lie. Now that I've started podcasting and using Riverside, they have an AI editing. And so it just makes these little clips. And 3 or 4 out of the, you know, how many is it, Sarah? 13 or 14 are usually quite brilliant. So I've been able to sort of up my short game on YouTube thanks to that. So, but other than that, I'm not big on AI personally. I have zero issues with anybody using it for anything. Look at my partner and the shaman and the philosopher, Ricardo, right? And people all around me love it. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just putting out my personal habits, right? Probably the same reason I never did heroin. I knew if I did, I wouldn't stop, right? So absolutely, Tammy. I mean, I find it helpful for things like this. I ask it privately about, show me what native pottery in this condition or that condition looks like, So I will use it in research and as a tool, but just very limitedly. I don't necessarily say that at anybody watching, just as sort of, I'm talking to trends I'm noticing, right? That's all. But yeah, my use is it's like it's an exceptionally advanced search engine first and foremost. And if you're doing any kind of research, to which you're just looking for some basic facts, what is mainly what everybody says, give it all to me, 1, 2, 3, right? That kind of thing. Yeah, it really did. I enjoy those videos too, Tammy. I'm not being good about putting. Sarah says it's a tool. Like anything else, correct, right? And of course, Tammy then with changed the game for making videos in ancient. It did, and I thoroughly enjoy those videos, right? So by no means hear me sort of like on a soapbox. I do have my own opinions about the guys, the things that are happening at the top, but that's across the board, right? Not just with AI, is with anything. So, but down here and what the normal people are doing with these tools, is quite wonderful, right? So let's get back to real quickly what one of these tools tells us about this mountain we're about to climb. All right, we're at its elevation, which is 1,152 to 1,156 feet. I was way off, 1,200. It's the symbolic southern terminus of the Pinhoteh Trail. So the Pinhoteh terminates here at Flag Mountain, but then if you guys are probably familiar with the Appalachian Trail, which, officially runs from, I forget the name of the mountain, there in northern Georgia, all the way up into Maine, right? You can hike it on foot, if you do it quick enough, you can beat the snow, right? They make movies about it. Southbounders was a pretty low budget, but a pretty good one if you're looking for just a cool, whatever, before they were really screwing up movies, and very low budget, So it is the symbolic southern terminus of the Pinhoteh, which connects to the Appalachian, right? So you can still walk all the way, basically where I am, where you're about to see me climb, all the way up to Maine on trailheads, which at the end of this video I touch on. I touch on just the call of that, and how powerful a pull that is to get lost in that. It is located within the Wetumpka State Park. Geologically, here we go. It formed as part of the broader Appalachian orogeny, the ancient mountain building events from continental collisions during the assembly of the supercontinent Pangaea in the late Paleos. Alabama's landscape reflects multiple phases of this, with folding, faulting, erosion, shaping terrain hundreds of millions of years. Right, now, much of this, for instance, they say the mountain chain that is the Appalachians, right, technically is the same that's in Scotland, but those had drifted apart. So we're familiar with all of that. The way they blanketly describe that to just much of Alabama's landscape, okay, what he's telling you there is there are many things in Alabama. For instance, Lookout Mountain. When you start looking deeply into what the geologists, there's some lightning, say about it, you will get that there is no actual consensus, right? There's really not. The consensus is a little outlandish. It is, and we'll talk about that at some point, right? Because there are so many anomalies that even that question, the honest answer, and this is from honest academics, is there's just a lot of questions about how like that particular mountain formed. Well, much of the landscape in Alabama has its own. For instance, I sit within 10 miles of this 12-mile wide impact crater. If you saw one of my early episodes or have seen my YouTube videos, you're familiar with my work on the impact crater and its correlation to a mound I found at the site of Mobilla, right? All of these micro environments, right? So that's what I remind people of when you get much of the landscape is impacted by these strange events. Okay. The mountain's prominence, so again, you'll hear me in the video say it's kind of just up and out of nowhere, comes from more resistant bedrock, likely including metamorphic rocks, quartzites, quartz, or sandstone that has withstood erosion better than surrounding softer materials. Okay? Nearby areas show upland hardwoods and rare montane longleaf pine. You'll see those forests on rocky slopes and ridges, with trees rooting into sandstone or similar cliff faces, right? So if you're also familiar with my work, such as up on the Cahaba River and how I found that triangular mound, well, it's because in the middle of a deciduous forest, you could look at any satellite map and see a triangle of green, pure green, no matter the time of year. It's because there were pine trees on top of it, and they were fairly small. It's because all that could grow, right? And because they're growing, as it says here, on top of. And all this you're going to see in the video. These mountain longleaf ecosystems are among North America's most endangered. Okay. So erosion over time, the peak of the mountain exists because over time everything around it eroded and it didn't. Okay, Flag Mountain. Let's watch a video, guys. Got it queued up and everything. Look at me, semi-learning. I had it at the end though because I wanted to test it. Okay, share. Bam. Screen. Welcome everybody. Jay Quills. Hey, what's up? Let me say hello to the chat too before I start on this. What's going on, you? You're not late. How's that late? Cancel that. Jacqueline of Universe Unveiled, the other half. We've already got Sarah here. If you guys are whatever platform you're on, Facebook, X, Rumble, YouTube, go find Universe Unveiled, same platforms you're watching me on right now. Like, subscribe, and especially, listen, if you're on Facebook, I know Facebook, you're like, that's outdated. Amongst social medias and the market that we reach, Facebook's actually kind of big, right? It really is. There's a little niche there. So go find them on Facebook because they want to be able to live stream to Facebook. And I think you need, 100 followers? And they just got going. So they're like 30. So go help them out on Facebook, please, and give them a follow so they can start including Facebook on their live streams like I'm doing right now. Okay? What's up, Jay Quills? You are not late in the least. Tammy, the way I spoke to Grok was the way you speak to my, yeah, hey, dude. When you look into the psychology of it, I guess it's the not wanting to lose humanity, right? I mean, if I'm speaking, I'm just, I don't take it as far as like personifying it, but I think it's much more healthy for us, the human animal, that if we're talking, we might as well talk like we normally talk, and depending on how used we might have to get to this AI, you know what I mean? I just think it's better if instead of trying to speak like the machine, we just keep talking like we talk, yeah, that's it. It's cool that you do it too. Yeah, exactly. Well, All right, so we're right on time because I've got about a half-hour video and we're a half hour into this, and I've got us queued up. So now that we said hey to Jacqueline and anybody else joining us, let's get into my first and Jacob's first trip over Flag Mountain. I've got it shared, but first and foremost, let me bring you guys back and make sure, see, you're in wrong format again, man. We got to get it a little more like that. Bye, there's me, there's the work I did yesterday. And let's get back over here. You still looking good? You're still looking good. All right, guys. Enjoy your watch along. It's a nice little trip. I tried to do a good job. I tried to keep it to the point. I also tried to just show you some pretty stuff. And I tried to include a few pictures, along the way. So you got a little taste of the countryside. Full disclosure, I had recorded 6 minutes of the drive up because I purposefully took the back roads because I was wanting to see the landscape. And it hit me on the way up as I was passing some cattle, actually, in a particular beautiful little place called Mushroom Mountain. It's just a hill around here, still in Tuscaloosa's territory. But it hit me, I need to start recording this. This is really great. Show everybody the trip up. And so I did that, and it was really good footage. But because I was taking the back way, it was dirt roads. And unbeknownst to my ear, but perfectly beknownst to where I was holding the camera most of the time, there was something in a cup holder or in a door that on that dirt road with all that gravel was just the whole video. So I'm sitting here going, look at this beautiful landscape. I mean, let me slow down. You hear the birds? You hear the birds for a second. And then I drive real slow, and I go, maybe if I drive slow enough, can you still hear the birds? That's great. I bet you can still hear the birds. Now look over here at this mound, and so I did not include that 6 minutes. I will perhaps get around, now that I've made fun of it, to throwing it on X or somewhere. But it was certainly, much to my disappointment, not worth including in this video. So here we go. Let's get to the beginning of this thing and press play for you guys. Now, how do I? No. Okay. Excuse me. I forget these windows, man. When you've got them all maximized and you're on the same one with Riverside, it's like, no, I need you to minimize, but where are your buttons at to do that? So I'm going to go back one. So you guys should be looking at my content. Let's bring this one back up. I still have it marked private. It's just the most efficient way. Okay, we've got Flag Mountain, right? All right, let's... Now, unfortunately, I have to come back to Riverside real quick and make sure... See, you guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing. You guys aren't seeing... share this tab instead. Boom. Bet you're seeing it now. Don't go away, you little play sign. That's what I was looking for a minute ago. Stay where you are. Looking good? Looking good. See, this is, self-producing. Gets a little bit of a... All right, guys, we're ready. And it went away again. No, I don't want to share this tab instead. Where did you... Oh, you're down in the app. Figured you out. Enjoy the show. Flag Mountain. You can't really tell, but the bottom of the sign, let's see if we back it all the way up. The reason, I took it at this angle, there it is. Bottom of the sign got me. Weegofka Mule Day, second Saturday in April. Back roads. One thing I didn't show you, for the scientists watching, I always want to show Google Earth, but I'm not going back now, but here it's on the record. Look at this place in Google Earth, and you'll see precisely what I mean. All of that I was showing you on LiDAR, it's all forest, just as was described there so expertly by Grok. Middle of nowhere, here we go. Hatchet Creek, for those already familiar. Quick stop on the way up. Jacob and I stopped for a little interlude, let him stretch, do a little 1 and 2, and hit the road. We are at the halfway point, not in mileage, but in time, because from here on out, it's small, windy road. Good bit of it even is dirt going this way. The back way up here, we're passing Hatchet Creek, which you're familiar with if you've seen my work. And we're heading north to Flag Mountain, which I believe is the southernmost point in the sort of Appalachian chain with an elevation over 1,000 feet. Watchtower at the top of it, we're gonna go check out. All right, dude, you ready? One more. That trailhead is the one you've often seen me in my videos, Hatchet Creek, where I climb up the primary spring. It's just up and over that trailhead there. Spring. Just to give you an idea, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to drive through, man. Middle of nowhere. Look how all the sign is going up this way. Just beginning the ascent up to Flag Mountain. It says 1-lane bridge ahead. Let's see, it is the... Can't see Ashley Dene Butler Memorial Bridge. Hey, Jacob, this is why you like the back way, man. He's like, I know, let me out. He is too, look. All right, we got to keep going. Let's find the top of this thing, dude. What do you say? I don't want to get in that, please. On the way back down, man. coming up the back way, here's our first view of Flag Mountain, it looks like, and there's the tower. There is the tower. That's where we're about to go climb. That we are making our way up to. It says we've got about another 2.5 miles of dirt road ahead of us. So a few of the tracts of land in sort of pocketed in this protected forest, there is some logging, right? And you see that especially here in this early part of the drive. Okay. Forward now a little bit, and we can start to see these giant rock outcroppings. So if you're familiar with my exploration of the Hatchet Creek area, holy shit, don't run off of that. It's steep. Then you're familiar with me exhibiting how these piles of rock, big hunks, size of this car, there's a horsefly, and smaller. There's a lot of winged insects in this video. Continue our climb, and from right here, we can get a pretty good shot at how it's falling off. As we nearer and nearer the peak, and then here you get an excellent shot of the outcroppings. In last night's episode of The Shaman and the Philosopher, I spent a good bit of time. I was filling for Ricardo while he was looking for a file, but looking at the LiDAR around here. That. Just I meant to say not only LiDAR, but what do you call the map with the lines for the gradients, so you can see how steep these places are. Just a big pile of that stuff. Just taking note for you. My main objective here is just show you the makeup. This really is giving you just a nice cutaway of all of this. Look, huge piles of stone. We take a look at this pile on the way back, and you see several other piles. It's strange, right? If all of this was erosion, right? I understand, parts being cut away for a road, which is exposing, what it's made of. That's why we can see it right here. But all over the mountain, right? And all over all of these mountains, hills, whatever you want to call them, you see this right here. These giant boulders just on top of the landscape. That is Flag Mountain. Topo map. Thank you, Jacqueline. More precisely, let me get back and do you the honors here. Topographic map. You're so right. Thank you. I get too focused here, I mean, not focused, but what I mean is thrown off by trying to focus on too much. So thank you so much for not only watching, but helping me remember that I was looking at a topographic map or topography map, I guess, depending on where you're from. Shadow probably doesn't do justice. And here I'm just trying to show you the experiencing how steep it's getting. Fast forward. it doesn't.
We have arrived at the lower parking lot for Flag Mountain. I'll show you the map in a minute. I'll show you the scenery. You can see we're in the lower lot. So apparently, and you don't realize this till you get the signs up here, the gate up to drive up to the tower, it's only open Thursday to Saturday. And it says so is the tower. I hope that's not the case because we're going to walk up there.
I learned that neither are necessarily true. So luckily I get up there and everything's wide open. And then also, fortunately, I meet a local realtor showing someone the area. Only person I saw the whole time I was there. And yeah, he said that the gate was put up, and I don't think it's opened very often actually. So you gotta walk, but it's a very pleasant walk.
There's a QR code for a $5 day pass, so we're gonna try that and start climbing up to the tower. I'll get you over here and show you the map to give you a frame of reference. Okay, so we're here, and ordinarily you can drive your ass up to the tower, but instead we're gonna head up what I assume is a walkway up to the tower and see what we can see. And then off from that area, it looks like
they had recently put in this ADA. I don't know why, but officially this, because until recently, when they really started doing all this, back when this thing, the tower, was built in 1933, it's called a partially complete state park or intended state park. But now, though it be in the middle of nowhere, and though it doesn't seem to be, I don't know, a lot of personnel all around, you do everything on your phone. I can't wait to get back. There are even some cabins and some campsites, like 3 of each, I think. That's all there is, tucked way out in the middle of nowhere. They look incredible.
Mountain. All right. I'm going to pay for day pass, get the pup, and let's go see what we can see. Look at some. I paused it, and I know not where.
Sorry, let me fast forward this.
We're heading up to the tower. I'm going to get Jake, load him up, and we're going to go
happens with the phone.
The rocks that litter the path up to the potentially closed watchtower. See you up there.
So, simple question that pops in my mind, about this landscape is forget, how do I say it? Yes, there was a road made here, right? Yes, but you can still venture off, before too long and see these rocks as a showcase. They're everywhere. As I've showed you down at Hatchet Creek, out in the middle of nowhere, they're there too, right? These, just like you see on top of the soil here. Stupid question, right? If it was formed by erosion, and the reason that this place is higher than the landscape around it, because the bedrock, they say that's what this is exposed bedrock, right? Essentially, is somehow more resistant than the land around it, right? That's how they say Flag Mountain formed. And Flag Mountain, I would say, should go for all of the things around it. You saw the map, right? Within 30 miles. Okay. Same landscape. So the stupid question is this: what erosive force? Okay, why aren't the boulders in the valleys, right? If it's the erosive force that put everything where it is and how it is, why is this a chunky, lumpy bit? Why are they all chunky and lumpy bits? Right? Why isn't the ground jump? You see, it's a strange landscape when you start to look to mechanics of how it all got here, right? And for those that are new, I can't stress enough what I'm showcasing, these visuals. I've got years worth of running out in the middle of nowhere and spinning it out in the middle of nowhere, showcasing that this repeats through this landscape no matter how tall these damn things get, this one being 1,100 feet.
Making our way up Flag Mountain. And while, yes, been disturbed, obviously, for our the sidewalk they put in, you can still see the pieces of stone that make up Flag Mountain. As we come up on the tower, it's a good opportunity to simply take a look at some of these stones. I mean, this seems very, very metallic. These little protrusions. I'm not saying it is, but it sure seems like it. It doesn't. I mean, look at the rest of this. See how shiny it is. And look, here's some quartz present. And that. Right. And then this. Looks like all this metal worked into this really southern material. I mean, I don't know. You know, but look at it here.
Now I know that technically, oh, that was a good one to pause it on. I know that technically, I think the word metal implies worked by man. So again, realize who your narrator is. And I'm describing what I'm seeing using the most obvious words at hand to me, right? And if you've watched my work for a while, you know why I use that word, metal. It's not just today's video, right? But look here at this, and you see an excellent example of why I call the substance that, because it displays itself in various forms of rust decay, right? You can see the color change, you know, so the iron, you know, the very red spots, and then these very sort of brown, almost because they've been exposed to weathering, almost seem a little more shiny, or polished would be the word if you're looking at a metallic substance. Again, you hear me using the word seems, right? But these anomalies begin around the edges of the state, right? And they begin in these little ways here, which I'll document in this video. And they end for me in North Alabama at the deposit of metal with quartz and stone that is perfectly circular, just like this window you're watching me in. And this is in this landscape is where you first start to see these little signs, these little questions about, okay, so what is this doing, you know, here? That's all. And again, so the word metal is just because of, as you'll see quite plainly, it's how it looks to my eye. That's it.
And here with these cross hatching, look at that line through.
It's like a sheet on top of the rock. It's very strange.
Seems to be almost,
see,
like a little metal plating right there. Then Very different type stone, sort of here, piled up. Oh, look, butterfly. There he goes, Jacob. You missed him. Large almost. Look at that. Cool stuff. It's like
And I reiterate for new watchers because it's worth being said. I know there was construction where I'm at, right? Go check out my other work. I could use some views. You'll see that these type protrusions, whatever you want to call them, large rocks on top of the landscape, exist where, according to all things except these DeSoto Chronicles, there have been no man, much, unless they were making whiskey. And yes, in fact, in this landscape, I have stumbled across a whiskey still. In fact, if you watch a video, you can see me and you can hear me say, "Don't shoot." Not here for the whiskey. Don't work for the man. It's middle of nowhere.
It's like a seat, almost. And right through here, we can see our tower at the summit.
Beautiful place. And now I'm expecting it to be closed at this point, right?
Closed today. The sign says, signs, everywhere are signs, locking up the scenery, breaking my mind. Do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign, man?
I didn't have all of my hair tucked up under my hat, so I didn't get the job.
Flag Mountain. Looks like we still get some pretty decent views.
Jacob's like, but we don't get any fucking shade. Little shadow running around. All right, you see how abruptly this thing rises from the landscape around it, right? I mean, it's a sharp little peak in comparison. Look at those two little nodules over there.
Two.
Love the birds.
Oh, look at that. Look at that peak through there. It's an awe-inspiring place that would have been important for many reasons. How charming is this? Tower open Thursday through Monday. We missed it by a day, bud.
No, we didn't. I mean, we did, but look.
Oh, wait a minute. No, we didn't. Come on, bud. Climb at your own risk.
And up we go.
You think it's too steep, bud? There is not a soul around.
They're rather steep. They're like ship's
we'll let him
stairs.
decide
You know
while
what I mean?
show you guys the top very quickly. Oh, ladder. Jacob's attempting a few.
It was so humid up there. But But you get an idea for how abruptly this place rises up out of the surrounding landscape. And now north, you remember from your map earlier, your LiDAR is very flat. And here's the tower we're at the top of. And then south is rather ripply, even though south is the wrong way from the Appalachians. It's where all these mountains of quartz-heavy stone are. There are just piles of it.
Look at these peaks through here.
That's north.
That's north.
Yep. Northeast. There's
Let's look south.
east and to south.
Where we came from.
And you see all those little ripples.
And then we're going to go meet Jacob halfway so he doesn't have to make the whole climb. You ready? All right, climb at your own risk. Nice to see you, tower. Great view. Very charming. Here we go. It's okay, dude. I'm coming.
Yeah, we'll fast forward this bit. But we did find Jacob waiting patiently.
Look who's waiting patiently. He's like, man, I'm not messing with those things. Cannot say I blame him. Very cool spot, though. And we did climb at our own risk. I'm back. I'm back out of jail. Here at the charming lookout tower. Flag Mountain.
Every time.
Oh, look,
Fuck a sign.
they even leave the little office open for the guest registry and some materials.
But
We need materials.
none of them were on the place I was at. That was slightly disappointing. Other than the
Smoky.
trail. It did have the
So I was hoping something just on this place.
And there you go.
There at the Wetumpka State Forest,
Let me get back to where I can pause
Flag
it.
Mountain. Yeah,
Well, I wanted to pause it on the info for you guys since I complained about it. Can you read it? There you go. Wetumpka State Forest, Flag Mountain, Alabama Forestry Commission, with a list of its features. But just look them up. There's some campsites here, man, if you're into camping, and some cabins that look pretty intriguing. And this landscape is most certainly intriguing.
Flag Mountain. Yeah, this is a very charming little place. Very lovely spot. Now that you've seen it and I've seen it, I just climbed up here with you guys, so I'm gonna stop filming and just walk around for a bit.
He's pretty damn good for 7-8 months. He really is. Yeah, he really is. There he is outside the outhouse. Did you
My
catch that?
first impressions of Flag Mountain.
He was waiting his turn, as Ricardo said.
They are this, they are that. It.
Did everybody look at him? Waiting to turn out the. So there is an actual outhouse. It's pretty cool. And it was just lovely. I was exploring, and Jacob found the shade. But it made it look like he was waiting his turn in line.
My first impressions of Flag Mountain. They are this, they are that it rises dramatically. I don't know if I'm going to be able to zoom this way. I won't. There's plenty of footage in here. Is that it rises dramatically to this watchtower from down below, like many of these peaks behind me. And it seems to be a pile of rocks. It's very comical. You know, I'm walking around it, right? So as I walk around this tower centered here on the peak, what you get,
Fast forward through exposition because
it's
you've already
content,
got
right?
me telling you all
Right.
this.
you see how quickly there, there,
Yeah, visual.
it dives to the valley below. right? Same over here, same over there, right? We can walk around. I can show you what it does on the other side. And as you look far off in the distance, you can see other conical peaks like this. Definitely more traditional ones. Again, sort of like
those
that
two
one there.
sort of bulbous peaks that I showed you a minute ago.
It's a powerful place. The meanders are certainly present, but also little black dots. Yeah. Spiritually powerful place. Line of sight all the way around. Would have been a valuable place to any people of any age, except this modern one. It's important to us, right? Because you can come here and you can take your time and you can sit with it and you can speak to, or at least listen to, the place. You see, here I am on the other side, a little bit higher tree line, but you can still see there, and I can't really zoom in, but there it just dives right off.
So
I'll be back to Flag Mountain.
as we begin our trek down, and you see it's the last like 6 minutes of the video, and I stopped the car and I show you some cool stuff and some rocks. But to be said about, you just heard me say the word meander. Many of you, if you have any reference to that word whatsoever, you might have heard people call them floaters. You might know them as floaters. These translucent things that sometimes some might come across your field of vision, that if you try to focus on them, it seems that they sort of move, right? Some people call them bugs. That's what my little daughter calls them. Well, there's an official title for those things, and I have 2 copies of Graham Hancock's book, Supernatural, and another one that's in the trunk of the car, because I was showing somebody something, probably the meanders. But there's just a nice illustration of them in there. I think it's pretty close. I guess I could make you guys an illustration, but if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Well, these things were found reflected on native pottery, right? It's so empty forever in every direction. They're known as meanders, and in my experience, and I'll try to keep to my experience. It's sort of like anything you guys hear me reference about all these mountains, right? All the ones I'm telling you about are the ones I've been to and the ones I've explored, right? I'm not telling you about the rest of them. Right? I'm just telling you about the ones that Jason has put his hands on and his feet on and has climbed and has seen what it is, right? Yeah, that's it. And I'm rambling, and I should be showing you guys this video because we're well over an hour. Yeah, let's get this going.
I'm going to spend a little more time here now, but not too much, because as you can hear, Jacob has made me promise that we will stop at Hatchet Creek on the way home
Perfect
and
timing.
go for a swim. So that's what we're going to do, completing our initial outing to Flag Mountain, guys. An incredible place, a powerful place, a beautiful place, a magical place. The whole landscape coming up here it's just magical, and I love the back roads where you really get a taste, for the lay of the land. All right, next stop, Hatchet Creek. Signing off from atop of Flag Mountain, the southernmost point in the Appalachians. They say that has an elevation over 1,000 feet. I should have double checked that before I made the video, but
and you've already heard all that info, and I'm double checked. So I'm going to do us all a favor and get to where I'm heading down. And I'll fast forward through anything that's heavy exposition.
Not here on top of Flag Mountain. hoping this shows up on video. If you can see off to my side, see how I dive down? Off
Right.
to my side, I dive down, right? So it narrows, and here.
So you saw on LiDAR, right, how this thing, it dives off on each side, and then on either side it dives down, but it's sort of at a little gradient, right? Well, now here in this shot, you get that exact gradient because you also get how sharply it does dive off to either side. It continues, right? Like you can literally see the arc right in front of you where this path is. And then this gradient is what continues, you know, on down towards the valley, right? Again, just trying to show. Here you can see all the way down the you know, switchback sidewalk. See where the car is, right? Parked, right?
On either side, right? Same here. I know. Swimming. Let's go.
Just a strange round rock. Oval. Again, you see the striated patterns.
What was on the top of Flag Mountain? Something to note. Walking out.
I'm going to fast forward this till I get in the car because you can watch the video for just me being funny with Jacob and notating the map for you. But for our purposes, yeah. So this is the drive down. Oh, yeah. Look at that flower. Huh? So I don't even know what type of flower that is, but that was just there on top of the mountain. There it is. Anybody know what that is? Ricardo said it was fighting with itself. It didn't know which color it wanted to be, if it was red or yellow, and then of course it created orange there in the middle. But either way, it's gorgeous. Ramble on. Thank you, Jacqueline. Oh, let me get back. Okay, so let me get back. Where was I? I need to go. I need to give you some volume.
And again, it look like these little. Look, they're like little thin sheets.
All right, so if I back up just a second, you can see how earlier in the video, a different rock when I was up at the top, just showing you some of the rocks, and I showed you how it kind of is like on top of the rock, you know, like a sheet. You can really see that line here in this large stone. There.
Thin sheets of metal. I mean, you know, it's rusting. Look at it. Look at it in here.
It's very odd, just odd.
But here gives you an idea of what coming down this whole mountain consists of.
See how the
Jacob
way
said, I thought we were going swimming, man. Look
rounded,
at me. We're trying to drive down
and
the
then
side
flat,
of the mountain,
you
but
know,
look
just-
here. Whoa, shit.
This was up a cliff, just about 5 feet. Look at the way it kind of sheets there, like melts away, and there it's just on the top. Look at that.
Looks like a vein of metal, right? See how it, underneath it's even like bubbly, like black.
Like yeah, you can see like it's just different. It's the same substance, but in a different
Follow it.
form. Like heat. is
Further
what
than
did
I
it.
can climb. What is Flag Mountain made of? That's what Flag Mountain's made of.
We read at the beginning, but they didn't mention any iron or anything of that sort.
Yeah, I can hear you, Jacob. He's like, dude,
wanna-
get in the fucking car. Let's go swimming now.
Oh, to show this pile down here, guys, as we approach an hour 15. So look on top.
It's kind of hard
of
to
all
do
of
this while driving. Now look
Hey.
at that rock.
Way up here.
Do you see how it? I don't know if I'm able to show you. Look how it comes to a point. That's the smart thing, Jacob. Just get out at this point.
One thing that I've documented over and over again in this very landscape down around Hatchet Creek and Swamp Creek, right, is that as you're exploring this barren, this wilderness, there are rocks on top of, just under, consisting the landscape itself of, right? And they evidence themselves in very different forms. What I mean by that, it could be the same stone, and one of them seems very well rounded, whether by nature or by man. I don't know. It's just very well rounded, right? And now the one right next to it will have one side of it. It looks like you'll see a perfect triangle sticking up from the ground. It's like conical. And you're like, what is that? And you go over, and the back of it's just rough, boulder, broken, and so that's what I'm really pointing out here. I can't climb up, but you'll see as I'm walking around that on top of this landscape is just all this rock in these different chunks. Chunks is a good word, that are in various different forms, right?
And look at that huge boulder up there.
Again, you see here, look, see this one. You can see it's like I got a ridging rock, right here, and then just flat. It's just broken. The other side of it's round, right? Our endangered pine forest.
All right, boy, let's slow down.
Why is it an endangered pine forest? Because as I learned years ago, and anybody following my work learned, when I found the triangular mound of rubble in the Cahaba, I was looking at a satellite map and I saw a green triangle. I was like, why is there only very, very green in a deciduous old growth forest? So I went there, and there's all these little pine trees like you see here. Oh, no shit. There's pine trees. Because the taproots can't get very far. Nothing could grow here. Yeah. That's why you got to protect the pine forest in this landscape.
Up. That is so cool right there. Whatever it is. Pieces, Right? And some angular pieces and flat pieces at the top of this pile. What is it? Somewhere around 1,000 feet.
1,152.
Pile of stone with some metal in it. Let's get wet, dude. A lot of quartz too.
Big hunk of quartz. And quite a
hopped out of the car on the way
natural
down
shape,
at what they call the pavilion.
And this is our closing
Pavilion is
talk.
behind me. And the ruins are here, so I'm scouting the best route in. And I have to tell you, I know Jacob wishes to kill me. But how hard it is to be in a place like this, facing that trail. And not walk off in it. Headed up and down these mountains for some ruins. It's like it calls you. Not just the fact that there's all of this that is this rocky landscape, and apparently what they're calling some native ruins. I know they're not talking antediluvian, right? But also just the power of the place, the nature. Cell phone service is not existent, so there's no... See that little arrow sign right there? It's taking everything I have. Not to follow it. This is why we must get out more. Feel the pull. Hear the call. Let it pull you. Answer the call. Get out in it.
Those are closing remarks. And that is my first ever trip to Flag Mountain, and perhaps your first ever view of it yourself. Let me close out our windows. You know what I probably should do to be diligent while you look at the sign I painted, which is, yes, behind me, is let me see if I can, do I have, I want to see if I can exhibit to you these piles of rocks from some of my work. I don't want to have to go digging through X too far, but let's, okay, sway back. Yeah, we took Jacob, here we go, to Hatchet Creek. All right, let me pull a visual here for you guys on, this is just a further south of Flag Mountain, the furthest north I had been at the time. But let me show you something. Pause while I share. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at, yeah, Johnson Jacob. Share. I want that big though. There we go. Perfecto. Okay, let's take a look at this hill. Same territory. Just good bit further south, maybe 15 miles, something like that. 10 miles, I don't know. All right, now I march in up a primary spring because I want to show you that what you see on a map, right, and what, as I read at the beginning, the story about how these things were formed doesn't quite, I think, match what you see on the ground. At least it leaves one with many, many questions. So let's look at this real quick for a few minutes.
You see Hatchet Creek with its rather peculiar.
All right, there's a peak. You see a peak? All right, well, that's this whole landscape is these things. Let's go climb one. Real quick.
Peculiarly shaped piles of this quartz and stone, which Jacob and I will now park and go climb one. So as Jacob and I have made it in, he's going to grab a stick and take a break, handling the leash and the lone bottle of water between us, filming.
All right, you see behind me. You see
The hike in
walking into
was kind of pointless.
All right, I'm gonna get. Oh, Jason, too many tabs. Can you tell I check on the weather a lot? All right.
See, there's a lot of up and downs over this mound on the leash in case there were other hikers. But before we get going any further, right as we enter, you've seen Hatchet Creek now, how big it is. Now, this is one of the little primary springs, which we're going to follow up. And right away, I just want you to get a look at the amount of quartz that's on exhibit, right?
That's quite a piece, huh?
You know, just pick a piece.
So let's climb for the sake of expedition here. Go check out Dawns with Jacob on my YouTube. I want to get you guys further up this thing and show you what this stuff's made of.
Up over many of these piles of quartz and heavy stone, there are some rocks that just don't seem to belong that I saw my last trek up here, and it is quite a ways. It's a little precarious, as you can now make out, because we're way off trail, so we've got to get up there. See all these rocks shutting out these big piles of rocks. And Jacob's headed the right way. We're going to head up there and see if I can find and show you some of these rocks I found on much earlier years ago exploratory mission. But as we get started, just to give you an idea of the way these rocks are piled. And then as we start to climb, you see It's just big piles of this stone. The quartz veins running through it, right? That looks like a block almost. But this is a big pile of that, as is most evident. You're doing good, Jacob. Let's see if you freak out when I cross. It's really most evident, like here. Whoa, shit. All right. Slippery right here. That's why I hate shoes.
Past my slipping. Let's go with my audio here. Look, okay, so this is the base of one of these giant piles. I mean, it's the only word I know. It's the only word that works. You see, look at the space underneath the larger stones here at the bottom. Right? Okay, this is... Now you climb this thing all the way up, and it's all these... Look at it. A little flat piece down in there. See all the little pieces of quartz sticking out of the stone?
Well...
Quartz right there.
Right? And you can see how it's just
piled.
Right? That's what these...
Those are the Tevas. What did you say about Tevas? Yeah, those are old Tevas. Do I have Tevas on in this one? I wasn't. I'm sorry. I was minding chat. Those are, I lost, I've got new ones now. I lost a pair with Jacob last 2 weeks ago in Swamp Creek. All right, but you guys see where I'm going here. Let me get back to where I can manage this video, and you see what I'm evidencing. Piles of rock. Lots of video. Climbing, I even climb it. Look at that.
Huge. Okay, that's at the top of this.
Okay, nobody's been working here. All right, nobody's been putting trails or a tower. Okay, this is out in the middle of nowhere at this point. Okay, you see how any of these deciduous trees that grow on these piles, you will see a few down by the water that have rooted in good, but you see how even they only reach a certain height. You see them all falling over and decaying. And you see these stones, as I mentioned to you earlier, when we were on top of Flag Mountain near that tower. You see, I bet Sarah's got some spare flip-flops. But you see evidence that what I'm crawling over here with Jacob several months back, before spring sprung, are these piles of stone, right?
This little hillock.
And as we fast forward, look at the quartz.
The size of this thing. And you can really see from this vantage point, here by the lovely waterfall.
Now, if this landscape was formed because these things were less, because of erosion, why is it piles, right? I mean, that's just the question that pops in my mind. Cracked, broken pieces of something in the middle of nowhere.
Evident in North Alabama on Lookout Mountain, much, much further north from here. We are still well below Birmingham in central Alabama, just barely up.
So that's this landscape. This video is great because I walk up and I show you, look, this is way up in the middle of nowhere, way up the creek here. Look at this boulder.
See, with a few little seams in there. Not really anywhere I can see the stone.
Let me back up and show you the, yeah.
It's very rounded.
Look at this thing.
Almost to a point right here. You see, with a few little seams in there. Not really anywhere I can see the stone below the moss.
Now, when I tell you that there are stones, you've seen flat, you've seen broken, you've seen shattered, you've seen triangular, you've seen angular, you've seen rounded, such as this, right? What are a bunch of piles of that shit doing here?
You notice how all the others I showed you coming up, even this one, they're very jagged. This is very rounded.
And we are at an hour and a half. And you see, guys, I can just look at this one. So further up, that little weird rock I just showed you seemed to be pointing in the direction of this even weirder rock. Well, maybe not weirder, but once I got up there and dug it off.
Things from here. Not saying it is, not exhibiting pareidolia.
So I called it a winky face because that's what it caught my eye from the creek. So if you see how far up it is, it's quite a ways up at the top.
Right angle. It really flattens out, right?
Oh, hang on. That's when I'm unearthing it. Let me show you when I come to it. And then we'll wrap this thing up.
Okay.
So after I climbed up to it, here. Okay. Well,
Notice how the others I showed you coming up, you know, even this one, they're very jagged. This is very rounded, almost to a point right here. You see the little seams in there. Not really anywhere I can see the stone below the moss except here a little bit. But even back here, you know, the idea of this shape only continues. So it almost seems like it's here to mark something. Either way, an odd boulder in the middle of the woods. All right, we're gonna keep going in between these piles of rock.
Here's where I walk up.
We're out of breath.
Yeah.
What we do? But the grades.
I thought I showed you from down there. Damn.
There's something else. I think you can see. By looking that way.
So I'm going to mute the video. And this rock, right, drew my eye. Let's fast forward. So you see the front of it, and you see this, what appears to be, I don't know, a line, an etching. I don't know if it's water. You know, it's not up and down. So what is this about, right? So let's uncover it. And I decided to uncover the rest of the rock to showcase what I'm pointing out there is that these rocks, I'm at the top now of one of the piles. These piles of rock quickly unearthed. I was watching for snakes, but it wasn't quite spring there, so it wasn't a massive concern. But what I want to evidence to you is what I've told you this whole video about this landscape as we climbed Flag Mountain. Is that all these rocks, and look at the pine, it's all that can grow there. These rocks that are very rounded with some very odd lines on the front, then in the back and underneath are very rough, very broken, very shattered. Oh, I don't make any money. Why are you going to make me show these people an ad for your car? You're poison. Get away from my watch through. Listen, Vanessa, take your ad for poison and you go book you an appointment straight to keep your shit out of my water supply and my nature, please. Thank you, Skip, very much. All right. So back to the pine forest. And as I unearth this winky face block on the front, look at the back at how straight and square and almost 90 that sort of broken angle is.
And I'm hoping you guys can make out on the back here, get a right angle. It really flattens out, right? I don't know if I can give you the winky from that angle, but we'll get perspective going down. Jacob, you ready for a little parkour, dude?
So I have, guys, let me bring me back center. And I'll give you a wrap up. You can go find my videos if any of this intrigues you. Let me stop sharing. But I'm at it an hour and a half, and I usually try to keep these things around an hour. Oh, I don't have any lights on. I look all white. It's all right. Gives us that eerie look. Thank you guys for this watch along. As you see, right, from that one rock, that this entire landscape, from everything I showed you, the metal, the call it metal, you know, it seems like metal, just seems, tell me what else it is. It seems like metal in these rocks, and when you go through this landscape of these mountains and hills you just saw me climb, full of these strange anomalous stones that they are piles of. You saw me in the bottom of the creek showing you how it's shattered, and there's little holes down in there, and you look up, and that's just a pile with a little bit of dirt that only pine can grow on, right? Because it's just a big pile of rocks. Well, if erosion did that, and I don't have glaciers in factor, you're just telling me it was erosion, how does that adequately describe how this landscape formed? Right? Erosive leaves, if this landscape was formed because the Mount Flag was just same stuff as everything around it, but the erosive forces had to go through a little more soft earth to get to it, then why is it just a pile of bumpily, jagged bits? Large, very, very large bits, but, you know, poses questions to me, guys. I don't know if it poses questions to you, but they don't line up. They just don't line up with what I see when I'm on the ground. I realize that then the questions that one starts to ask oneself might be a bit distant from the standard narrative. Although you do have the Younger Dryas hypothesis, the obvious meltwater, one pulse, 1A, 1B, right? And the rapid melting of the glaciers, sea level rise. You have all your correlative evidence that something very damaging happened to this part of the world, right? And the Younger Dryas comet impact hypothesis says that as the lightning goes, that for years and years, space rocks came flying in here, and airbursts, nuclear bombs going off in the air, right? And a bunch of them hitting the ice cap, instantly vaporizing, melting, causing floodwaters to cover, the continent, and then the earth, because the whole thing rose in pulse 1B, right? Those are science facts, right? So if I then start to go, well, if I've got a pile of something, and let's just think macro, right? If I got a pile of something, if I got a pile of bricks, even if there's a bunch of half bricks, not really any whole bricks, there's definitely a half a brick and a brick corner. There's a middle of a brick, right? I would start to say, well, something forceful occurred to this brick structure, right? Something explosive, and then some water spread out over the landscapes. Yeah, I asked Randall Carlson, not in person, but directly, over video link at one of those conferences I was at, and I was asking him about what I would experience here, right, during this period when the glaciers were melting, and he described plenty were moving over that have left a foot or so or more, depending of diluvial deposits and shit on top, and so you see these massive pieces of rock with just a little bit of soil on top, and just enough for some pine to grow on it. But back to our house analogy, just as Jacqueline put for us here, you'd say something happened to that house, right? You go, it was force. Okay, well, if I ask myself, well, let me look around, where is there some hypothesis about explosive force that would have come around here? Right? And I find the Younger Dryas comet impact hypothesis. And I go, well, let me look up, what does an airburst do? Tunguska. Oh, shit. What is the power of an airburst? Oh, a whole bunch of nuclear bombs, right? Neutron bombs, nuclear bombs, just constantly, 20 years, 100 years, 200. I forget the window, right? And what if you'd had the structures that were very large, larger than our current narrative allows for? Again, we're on a what if journey here, aren't we? See, these are those questions. When you start looking at a landscape and you start asking some questions, I'm just showing you where you could go. And does it fit? So what if, in this mythical former age, structures far larger than the pyramid, as the Great Pyramid, or think the Earth in Cahokia, larger footprint than even the Great Pyramid, right? We know structures of size, right? Well, imagine some bigger, but of stone, right? A lot of them. Not necessarily pyramids, just structures, whatever your mind's to fucking J.R., what is it, Tolkien, Okay. Well, if an explosive force came through, it'd leave a pile of very strange looking stone, wouldn't it? And if there were any metal involved, perhaps like we've seen evidenced in megalithic structures we're familiar with, from ages where they're still standing even. We see the very small use sometimes of like metal, T-clamps, holding things, positioning things when you're working with these very large pieces of stone. Okay. Well, if the stone is much larger, perhaps your clamps are larger, something along those lines. I don't know. Then perhaps what you might be left with is a bunch of piles of rock and rubble showcasing quartz, like a lot of these megalithic structures. They liked quartz and rose quartz and quartzite, piezoelectricity. That's what puts the charge in this landscape. You're walking on an electric grid, it's all quartz and full of energy. Well, if all of that were shattered by 20 to 200 years of atomic bombs going off, and then if more water than we could imagine, thanks to the ice caps melting, Pulse 1b rushed over the place, what might it look like? Well, it'd look a lot like what you saw today, right? Now, how did I get there? I ask primary questions. I go to a place. That's what we did today. We went to a place. We put our hands on it. We read the official description of how it was formed. We put our hands on it. We climbed up and over it. We looked in it. We fell off it. We scraped our knees. We went through thorns, right? And we were left with some questions. And now I follow those questions to my own answer, right? But what I hope everybody gets is that you get questions that are not directly answered by the narrative that is handed to you, right? Yeah, that's what I thought of Flag Mountain. And that's what I think of much of this landscape around here is there's just questions. So many questions that whoever I go to, and whoever I ask about, I don't get answers other than very rough ones and vague ones, Not that I've had any chance to sit down with anybody, X is hardly the place where anybody's going to give you a solid answer. But when you start asking questions about particular things, and one of those things, as we phase out here, to show you where all of this capped, oh, I know I'm getting quiet, but there's something in my ear that's not in your ear, and I just want to show you a picture. That's why there's something in my ear and not your ear, because I'm not going to get lost in any videos. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this with you and show you where some of these questions end up leading when you keep following them. And you keep asking them, and you keep going, well, okay, but why was that there? And why was that there? And if I can find the right button, it's because you often end up
within and without us.
Coming up with things like this, right? You got to get outside to find those things, though, guys. And you got to start examining what's around you, right? Now, I know I put forth potentially as a thought experiment things that many in the audience might either balk at or or have a particular reaction to, you might not want to go down that avenue of thought experiment with me. But I do encourage you to go through the questioning line, you know, show me something that explains this with natural forces known in this precise area, because I can't find them. And as I showed you at the beginning, we read. Okay, I've rambled. I guess as the lightning rages out there, we prepare to say goodnight. We took a look at Flag Mountain today, guys. We started touching on some things, meanders for one, which I hope to dedicate some more time to. I've got 2 more episodes this week. I went way over on this one, so I'll keep those appropriately in their time frame. We'll do one more looking at some weird and cool stuff, and then we'll do one talking spiritual matters, as we did last week in episode 11. Proud of that episode. If you have not seen it, go back and check it out. Please go see my sisters in the chat, Jacqueline, who will throw up here on the chat, and Sarah at Universe Unveiled, all of us representing also the Institute for Natural Philosophy. You can find them on the web. We've also got a Discord where you can come hang out and chat with us, and yeah, just ask questions and be with us in a way that this chat doesn't always allow. Episode 12, 1 hour, 46 minutes here on May 6th. All right, guys, I love you. Thank you very much for taking this journey with me. Thank you very much for watching. And in next episode, we will continue finding things within and without, bringing the truth of our past to the present. And we do that. Why? Because our best future requires the truth of our past. Love you all.